Monday.
You all ready?
Yep.
All right, let's
We're
go.
going to VGM Con. We're leaving on Monday.
That video was supposed to end earlier than it was. Anyway, well, welcome everyone. We are the Washington Metropolitan Gamer Symphony Orchestra, and specifically the four of us represent the Twitch and live streaming and video production leadership of the orchestra. Yes.
Thank you.
For those of you who might not be familiar, we are a community symphonic orchestra and choir here in the Washington, D.C. area that performs arrangements based on video game music. We have members all throughout the DMV area. We have folks in the District of Columbia, where I am. We've got Northern Virginia, where Fabio and Jarel are from. And we got Maryland, where Ashleah is from. Now, since we are an orchestra who performs video game music here in the DC area, you might be wondering, and the answer is yes, we have performed here at MAGFest on the main stage before. We performed on the main stage in 2018 when we were a much, much smaller orchestra than we are now.
Yeah, I think we're at least double what we are in that picture.
Probably even more than that.
We will never fit on main stage again.
No. Yes, we've asked MAGFest, we've applied to perform, and they've said no because we're just way, way, way too big now, and logistics are kind of hard for 145 people.
Totally
but
valid.
Fingers crossed, maybe someday we might make something work.
We can get the fountain.
Yeah, fountain would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I am David. I am the director of video production and basically oversee the entire Twitch team itself. I am also a tenor in the choir. Yes, I do perform and also oversee our live stream at the same time. It's great. We also have...
Hi, I'm Jarel. I'm a member of our Twitch team, one of the Twitch leads. I'm also, I generally serve as stream director for most of our concerts. I'm the only member of our Twitch team at this table who doesn't actually perform.
But that's really necessary.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have to have somebody who's not like on stage during our concerts. And outside of WM stuff, you can often find me doing stuff for Zeldathon and Overclock Remix.
Oh, yeah, I am the next one. We didn't sit in order. That's the problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Fabio Moreira. I'm also a Twitch lead, but I also play the tuba in there, so you probably heard me a bit there in that last bit. I've been with the orchestra since 2018. I actually saw that performance. That's what inspired me to join, so that was a fun time. Actually, no, sorry, I'm false. I knew that performance was coming. I couldn't make that concert, but I did find the table later on and asked if they needed a tuba player because I just moved to the area. Also, this is my dog. Everyone say, aw.
She's a baby.
Thank you.
and
She's a
so
baby.
cute.
Anyway.
And I am Ashleah Younker. I'm the director of development, so I ask a lot of people for money. I also sing alto in the choir. And when I'm not doing like video game orchestra stuff, I'm on Bookstagram as Ruse Reviews.
Yep. I should also mention that when I'm not doing WMJSO stuff, I'm also doing interstitial production for Games Done Quick. If any of you... Yeah. If any of you happened to catch the Crazy Taxi with live backing band from this past HEDQ, I was actually behind the scenes directing cameras for that, so that was really exciting.
Nice.
Yeah. Really pleased with how that turned out. Anyway, Fabio, would you like to maybe talk a little bit about the history of WMJSO live streaming?
Absolutely. I was kind of one of the earlier people in this group right here, although I think actually you've been here longer than I have.
No, I joined in 2018 as well,
Did
but
you?
not because I saw the performance, but because Rob Garner had been hounding me since the inception of WMGSO, and I was finally free.
Gotcha. So when we first started, basically, I wasn't even part of the first streams. I was just before I joined. We had a colleague of ours named Tracy was really heading it, and she would do it basically in their living room. And it was just a couple streams a year, maybe tossed less than 10, I think. There's an image from it. Thank you. It was very basic. We had a Blue Yeti microphone, a Logitech webcam, and just about the bare bones as we could get. But, you know, we knew OBS. We knew how Twitch worked. And from there I came in. And then I started working with them in Extra Life of 2018. And from there I just kind of involved myself more and more into the point where I helped take over from Tracy. And then David came in, who also had a lot of Twitch knowledge. And so once we got together around COVID, we decided to start forming a proper team from there.
Yep. So we come to 2020, and I'm sure everyone knew exactly what happened in 2020 around March, April or so. And so we get to July, and our PR director at the time, Melissa, as well as another person involved with PR, Emily, decided that we should kind of put a more formalized effort behind our Twitch streaming. Like, we'd been Twitch streaming casually on occasion. You saw the photo there. But let's actually get some structure to it, and let's formally found a team. And so they approached both Fabio and myself to formally get a team together, formally establish a department in WMGSO. And so Fabio, myself, and Emily had some sessions where we put some policies together, put some workflows together, and just formally founded the team in July of 2020. Then November of 2020 is when we had what was pretty much our first major event as a Twitch team.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about some more about Extra Life later on because it's one of my babies. But Extra Life really kind of was one of the first major events out to the Twitch team development lead. Sorry, the Twitch team became a thing, and kind of was our first foray into more formalized streaming, but still obviously with fun.
Yep. Then we get to January of 2021, and of course we were all in our houses and we couldn't really perform together as an ensemble. But our ensemble manager, Amanda, approached us about the idea of maybe doing virtual recitals on Twitch. And so Fabio and myself, we came together, we developed some workflows, developed some processes, and we streamed our first virtual recital featuring a few soloists on Twitch in January of 2021. And Scott, I think you may have actually been one of those soloists for that first stream. Scott there. Yep.
And I think some of that is on our YouTube.
Yes, that is on YouTube if you want to check it out. You can see our YouTube down at the bottom. Yeah. So then the summer of 2021 comes along, and WMGSO makes the decision that for that fall, we are going to be back in person once again and do an in-person season. With a lot of precautions, of course. Like, we had masking, we had air purifiers, we had testing protocols in place. So we were taking precautions, but we were back in person for November of 2021. Now, one of the precautions that we took is that we actually decided not to fully ticket our venue. We performed at a fairly small venue up in Silver Spring at Montgomery College.
It's like a 500-seat house.
Yeah, about 500 or so. And we decided that we were only going to sell 2/3 of that capacity in tickets. Well, surprise, surprise, we sold out that concert. We sold all the tickets that we were selling to fill up the venue to 2/3 capacity. And so the board came to us and said, you know what? Why don't we stream our dress rehearsal? And then that way the folks who aren't able to attend the concert at least have a concert to watch. And so we did do that. Now, I do have a background in TV production, both from Games Done Quick as well as some experience doing local TV production in high school. But not a whole lot of other folks in WMGSO had experience with broadcast production. Here we were trying to stream a concert. And so we had to cobble a lot of stuff together. We had to borrow some equipment. We had to really ask around to see, okay, who knows how to do audio, who's not performing, who knows how to do camera stuff.
Who has a friend who
Yeah,
can
who-
sit there and
who has
man
a
the
friend?
equipment?
Yep.
Yes, and it was very jank and cobbled together, but we did get a concert dress rehearsal stream out the door. And then that spring was actually our first concert stream at the venue, and Jarel was behind the scenes doing cameras for that one, and that's actually how we kind of found you and brought you on board. It's been awesome.
Yay.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jarel.
Yep. Thanks to Zainab, our librarian.
Networking.
Networking
We're
is
getting
great.
into that.
Talk about that later.
Now, our next big milestone happens in 2023. because we have a bunch of performances. We do stream those performances. And we realized that we kind of should start upping our game somewhat. And Ashleah was doing some research, and she found that Montgomery County, Maryland, was starting to offer some grant money, quite a lot of grant money actually, to be able to purchase equipment. And so we applied for a grant through Montgomery County, the Arts and Humanities Council, and we got the grant.
I'll talk about that more
Yep.
later.
Well, we have a slide about that much later on. So we got the grant, we purchased the equipment, and that November 2023 concert was the first concert that we did with our current equipment setup that we will be talking about a bit later on.
And we've been learning the whole time, and we're still learning.
Yes.
But we've got
Absolutely.
a really good setup right now, so we wanted to help people who are just getting off the ground.
We're not
Exact-
we're not entire professionals, but we are very good at what we've gotten doing. We've made a lot of mistakes that we want
Yep.
people to learn from.
No, it's, you probably saw, like, that video, it's not perfect. We're all volunteer. We're a community ensemble. But we definitely strive to do our best with everything we do as a volunteer ensemble. Now, back in 2020, when we were all indoors, we figured we might as well invest in some equipment for things like maybe Extra Life. Maybe someone wanted to borrow something for virtual recital, and so we bought some equipment, and the first equipment we bought was a Yeti Blue Snowball and a Logitech C920 webcam. I'm sure many of you out in the crowd are familiar with these two pieces of equipment in particular. You'll know that they're not great. They're certainly not the best by any means, but they're really, really good for someone looking to kind of enter into the world of streaming. They're what comes up frequently for, like, not exactly foolproof, especially on Windows 11, but fairly close to that.
And we still give those out. We
Yes.
have it if people, one of our members wants to have a stream, we can loan that to them if they don't already have it.
Yep, exactly. But yes, this was the first equipment we bought. And then once we got the grant, this is what our equipment looks like now.
Or at least some of it.
Yes, some of it.
There's a
Not
lot
not
more.
everything is here. We've bought even more stuff since I put these together. But yes, we have grown quite a bit in those 4 years since we bought our first equipment and formally founded the team. We will be going much more in depth on all of this later on in the panel and going through that big scary diagram. Now, some of you might be wondering, where exactly do we get all of the equipment that we purchase as an ensemble? First place is, of course, Sweetwater. Anyone out there use Sweetwater? Nice. Anyone out there got a favorite candy?
Laffy
Taffy.
taffy, laffy taffy, laffy taffy, laffy taffy.
We got some Laffy Taffy fans
And the
over
strawberries.
there. Really? We'll take you up on that
I will
offer.
take-
I'll-
them.
don't
Nice.
don't threaten me with a
Except-
good time.
Except for the banana. Somebody else can take
I'll take banana.
All right, then. Oh, we got someone who likes jelly beans there. Jelly beans are good. A second place that we get our equipment that's a bit unusual is actually from auctions. There's a company out there called Rasmus who does auctions where if a company closes down, goes out of business, or if some company has some equipment they don't want anymore, they give it to Rasmus, and Rasmus auctions it off to the general public. And what this means is that we're able to get some stuff for a fraction of the price. For instance, we managed to get a couple of 300 millimeter lenses for like, I don't know, tens of dollars. Like,
It was very. I
Yes.
think the whole cost was about $800, and we got what, 6 lenses or 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
yep. And we got a whole bunch more stuff too. We got like carts, we got like some adapters.
Yeah.
Auctions are really, really great if you can deal with the anxiety and
Yeah.
a pure adrenaline rush.
Yeah. It's
Make
very
sure you
much
can show
adrenaline.
up.
Yes.
Make sure you can show up for the pickup time.
And also
Yes.
stick to your budget if you do an auction.
Yes.
Very important there.
No, it's an
online.
online auction, but you do have to go pick it up in person. How they usually do it is whichever company went out of business or wherever they had the equipment, that's where you're going to pick it up, and that's where they have all of the lots labeled. So they tell you, okay, you can pick up on these days prior to the day that you're actually doing the bidding, so that you know if you can actually make it to pick it up.
They also do small estate sales as well. So
Yep.
if you want, like I've bought watches on there before and go ahead.
Does Preface mainly happen on the East Coast?
Mainland.
We've only used them in the DC area.
They do
So-
have some West Coast listings I've seen before on there, like California, but I don't know how far. But I don't know the full extent. But majority of it is in the DMV area, and
West Coast is you tend to be sold by there.
Okay.
yeah,
Same thing.
yeah.
Good to know.
Full for preference. All of our information. We are an we're an East
Yes.
Coast based area. Obviously, like we said, we are in DMV. So this information is for this area particular. Obviously, some of these sites like B&H and Sweetwater, you can get anywhere, but just keep that in mind. And I'm sure there's other options as well. We want to add that caveat in context.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, speaking of East Coast, out in New York, we do B&H Photo for video equipment specifically. They have a great selection of cameras and tripods. Sweetwater is starting to get some video equipment, and we have seen that there. So if you're looking to get video equipment, you might as well get it from the same place as your audio stuff as well, and get some more Laffy Taffy with that as well. And then the last place is Adorama. We don't use them super often, but we have gotten a few miscellaneous items from there. I think we got like our Sony a6500 and the lens from there, as well as a carrying bag. Great option countrywide as well.
Yeah.
But of course, as Ashleah mentioned and Fabio mentioned, we are looking to grow and develop even from where we are now with that gigantic rack and diagram of equipment. We are actually looking to use even more cameras for our videos. That Helldivers 2 video you saw there used, I think, about 6 cameras, and we have ideas for more. We could even get up to like 8 or 9 at one point.
And not all of them were manned. We had
Exactly.
We had several manned cameras, and some of them were just static.
Yep, we'll talk about that a bit later. We are looking for incremental equipment improvements as well. The tripods we have right now, for instance, are very squirrely, and they tend to like move all over the place.
If
And
it's static, you're good.
Yes.
If you want to move the camera, they're not so good.
and so we'd like to get tripods that are actually meant for TV production and not photography because they are good. We would like to be more efficient at setting up for concerts because our venues, we rent them actually by the hour. And so every additional hour we have to rent to be able to set up our stream stuff is more money we have to pay for our venues. And our current concert venue is very expensive. And so if we can reduce our setup time, that could potentially be less rental time we need and less budget. And then lastly, we're of course looking for like higher viewership, more bits, more subs, all that fun stuff. But everyone's looking for that. So, you know, it kind of goes without saying. But feel free to subscribe to us on Twitch. URL is at the bottom of the slide.
So we'll go into a little bit our smaller stream versus full ensemble because our full ensemble is a major focus, obviously, but we do smaller streams, and you may be wondering what kind of equipment we use for that. So here's the basic list. We start with our stream PC, of course. Something's got to be running OBS. We have literally this laptop right here.
This laptop in particular.
We have an audio interface that we tie to that. It used to be a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, I believe. We have gotten a newer interface since then, or maybe not necessarily a newer one, just one we got from auction that we don't have to borrow from other people, which we'll go into the whole borrowing thing later. So we have an audio interface, and we plug 2 CM4 condenser mics into that. Those have worked really well for us, and we use them for a whole lot more. You'll see that in the full ensemble stuff too. But for our smaller streams, they're really good for picking up what the small ensembles are doing, so we tend to use those for those. On the video side, we have a capture card and an HDMI converter plugged into the stream PC to pick up the footage from the Sony a6500, which David mentioned earlier. That's the camera we've had for quite a while. We've got significantly better cameras on the Blackmagic side, which we'll talk about later, but the a6500 has been an absolute workhorse for us, and we still use it today.
It's great for taking it different places.
Yeah. Basically get a static view, sit it up front, and it's pretty great at catching everything you need for the most part. So on the next slide, we have basically just what we use it for. I did mention small ensembles, but our small ensembles tend to play at a lot of places. We get out and about quite a bit recently. We have a lot of small locales we play out in the area. Thinking of McClintock and Frederick. We have played at Eastern Market, Metro, a couple of times recently. There's a number of times where we get together, even now where we have, it's not COVID anymore, but we still, well, I mean, yeah, sort of. But we still have people get together on Twitch and do like small ensemble sets, even though we don't need to focus on only doing that because of lockdown restrictions.
We just do it anyway.
Yeah. So if any of our small ensembles want to like stream, we'll often bring like this whole setup over to somebody's house, wherever they end up playing at, and set it up for them too. One thing that we put on this slide that I wanted to mention, Holy Trinity is a church that we played at a couple of times in the Falls Church area. And they're worth mentioning because they have a couple of PTZ cameras at their church, which lets you do a lot of fun zooms and rotations. And we wanted to make use of those, and it turns out that our small setup can just work really well with that. You can actually like plug the PTZ cameras right in and sort of get them in the mix while still using the a6500 and the rest of the things we have. So this small setup we have is good for pretty much capturing anything you want that's of that size. But it's really efficient at letting you plug other things into it and still functioning. It's like a good setup overall that you can plug extra bits and pieces into, and it generally won't tend to break everything, which is like the most important part. Had a question?
Hey, Jarel, what's a PTZ camera?
A PTZ camera is it's a stationary camera, you'll generally never, if you like go looking for them in the location you're at, you'll never see them. But somebody is like sitting back here with like a joystick basically and moving a camera around, and the camera will like go wherever they want to pick up whatever view they want. A lot of places that have PTZ cameras tend to have like 2 or 3. I think Holy Trinity has like 3. One back on the audience, which is fun for applause shots.
I think they installed it for COVID limitations so they could keep doing their sermons and stuff.
Yeah, they
so
wanted to do their church services over Zoom, and they felt that was the most convenient way of doing it. But it works really well for small ensemble sets too.
Yep.
So. And here we're going to show you a very quick example of a small ensemble set that we did at VGM Con last year in Minnesota.
We're short on time, so we gotta.
All right, so with the small ensemble set, we have some advantages and disadvantages of using it compared to like the full ensemble setup we have. The biggest advantage by far is the ease to transport. Like I said, that set was at VGM Con in Minnesota. You do not want to carry massive amounts of hardware and like gigantic Blackmagic cameras all the way out 8 or 9 states away.
I wasn't going to use one of my 2 free bags
Yeah.
to bring that. Sorry.
I wasn't going to pay several extra $100 for weight on the airport.
One big equipment rack.
God. So this small ensemble set is generally small enough to just fit in a single suitcase for the most part. So it works really well for wherever you've got to take this.
I think I even had it in my carry-on, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
I think
the
I had it on
smarter
my
case.
roll-on
Yeah. It's a quicker setup than full ensemble concerts. It generally takes like, if you're used to it, skilled at it, it takes like 20 minutes at best to just put that together and get it ready to go. Disadvantage, it's just one camera. So as you saw in that video, literally just a static video that we couldn't do anything with. You want to just move the camera to make sure you got a good shot, and then you probably don't want to mess with it during the set because that will screw up people's watching experience on like Twitch and whatnot. So if you're looking for more variety in the actual shot, that's not going to do it for you, unfortunately. But as long as that's a disadvantage you can live with, it works pretty well. Does this work for other groups? Absolutely. Like I said, we've been using it for a lot of our small ensembles, which have played in a lot of different places. But we've had a lot of other people sort of borrow the setups too. And if you're just looking for anything that you want to do with like that size, and again, you don't want to use like a Blue Yeti and a Logitech C920. If you're looking to upgrade a little bit, this is like a good spot to go up to without breaking the bank, because all of this is it costs a little bit, but it's like not super horrible. So yeah, consider that as a setup if you're looking for something like that.
Now we're going to get bigger. So yes, I showed you all this big scary diagram. This is everything on our equipment rack and then some. We have our equipment rack that's got our mixer plus a stage box, our camera switcher. This is our very same stream PC. And then we have 3 cameras that we plug into it. We've got the Sony a6500 from our small stream setup, and we also have 2 Blackmagic cameras. Both of the Blackmagic cameras are typically operated, while the Sony a6500 kind of stays in place as a static shot. Which is nice because we can get that nice wide shot of our orchestra with the Sony, and then our 2 Blackmagic cameras can be, one of them we typically have off to the left side, and that one gets operated, gets nice shots of the choir from the left. The other we typically have centered, and that will be operated and get nice shots of really the whole orchestra in general from that angle. So here's our rack. At the bottom of the rack, some of you may have recognized this. This is a Behringer X32 rack version. We selected the rack version specifically because it is very small and portable and also cheaper.
Small.
Yes, small.
The box is still light.
Yes, it's very heavy. But it fits in the rack, and so it's very, very nice for it to go back and forth between our storage and our concert venue, and then storage again, and then a different concert venue.
You just need 2 people to lift it.
Exactly. Most of you may be familiar with the Behringer X32 rack as something for in-ear monitors, but we use it as our full audio solution. For stream primarily, but sometimes if we do front-of-house audio as well, which happens sometimes, we will use the X32 rack for that as well. Now, some of you may know the X32 rack only has 16 XLR inputs, but a typical full ensemble concert for WMGSO runs from about 18 to 22 inputs. And so we do have an additional SD8 stage box that we plug into the mixer via an AES connection, and that gives us 8 additional inputs to that mixer for a full 24. We could expand that in the future to 32, but I don't think we've seen 32 inputs yet with XLR specifically, so we might not ever actually need that.
But we do have room to grow.
Yep.
So.
We have done that with Dante, by the way, so that is an option if we need to.
A lot of our stuff, we know that we might want newer things in the future, so we've planned around that. So that's another tip to like keep in mind. Think of what you might need 5 years in the future, but get what you need now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't cheap out now. Just get the bare minimum. Sometimes, especially if you're looking to grow into an organization level, it does pay off to spend a little bit more money because that will help you down the line.
And that was a big part of the discussion here. It's like, all right, we need equipment for like the next 5 years or so. What do we think we're going to need, and what do we want to do in the next 5 years? So heading back to our rack, back to the front again, we have a Blackmagic Constellation 1 Mix Effects. I was actually very familiar with this kind of switcher from GDQ events. This is what we use there. You may be familiar with Blackmagic Mini, which is a smaller version of the ATEM. We did have some discussions between the Mini versus this one, and we felt that this one met our needs better, especially because it has more than 4 inputs, and we are starting to actually get up to 5 inputs now when you include on-stream graphics. Then above that is our power conditioner. This is actually a photo when that power conditioner was in a temporary position, which is why 2 screws are missing. It's now been moved to the bottom, and there's 4 screws in there,
We
just in
promise
case you're
it is
wondering.
all in
Yes,
there.
it is secure now and properly put in the rack. It's hard to see, but on top we have our router. We do have an internal network here on our rack, so that way we can operate our X32 remotely. We can do stuff with our switcher. We actually have been experimenting with Companion, have not gotten that to work yet for Stream Deck control of our switcher. Maybe someday, who knows, but we do have a router for our internal network and our external Ethernet connection to the venue. Again, these are our cameras. We got the Sony a6500 and the Blackmagic Studio Camera 4K Plus G2. We did specifically choose the 4K Plus G2 because it has some nice features. It has internal communications to it, although we have actually developed our own communication solution since then. It has built-in tally lights. It has a nice viewfinder on the back. And then it also has SDI connections specifically. A lot of our concert venues are pretty big, and we're talking distances of around 100 feet, 90 to 100 feet between our camera and our switcher. And so we do need an SDI connection rather than an HDMI connection. Which is where the Sony a6500 would come in. That's an HDI camera. This is most of our audio gear, pretty much all of it. We have the 2 CM4 microphones. Those are our typical small barrel condenser microphones. We use them for hanging mains mics. We use them for choir mics. We use them wherever you would want some sort of small barrel condenser mic. We've got some SM57s and 58s as well. I'm sure many of you are familiar with those. Great general purpose mics. Yeah, we might have some right here in front of our faces.
We might be using them now.
Yeah. We do own an AT2035. We kind of do move this around with where we used it. We've experimented with woodwinds for this at one concert for this kind of mic. We've experimented with other positions. For this past fall, we actually had it as an accordion mic. And what we found is that it also proved to be a really, really good area mic for percussion in general. Because if any of you have worked with an AT2035 or 2020, you know it picks up like all the noise ever. And that actually kind of worked to our advantage, surprisingly enough, in the concert venue. Lastly, we do have some active and passive DI boxes. The ones we settled on were the Behringer DI100 because that's just kind of where our budget landed when we were trying to see what we wanted to do with the grant money. I'm sure many of you out there use like Radial, for instance, which I would recommend as well, but this is just kind of where the budget landed, and so this is what we use. So now we're going to cover where all of that audio gear goes and where it goes on stage. One of the big things I wanted to mention is that when you were watching the video from VGMCon with our small stream and 2 mic setup, those mics were located kind of in the crowd. And so you might have, and when you locate your mics in the crowd, you hear the room in particular. And some of you might have picked that out. And that's one consequence of the small stream setup, is that you do pick up a lot of the room. But when we are working with our full ensemble concert setup, we do place our mics a lot closer to the ensemble rather than place them out in the crowd. We have our mains, and we do try to hang these whenever possible, because if you try and put them on a big stand, which we do sometimes, that's a visual obstruction. Our venue is really, really great acoustically, and so we can just place our mics there, just hanging right across the front of the stage. We have a few mics in the front for the MC as well as the soloists. This number tends to vary from concert to concert. Some we have 2 mics here. This past concert we had 4 because we also had recorders. It was cool. We also have mics for choir. We have a very, very big choir now, 72 people in fact. 73, yes. We do have a new person.
We just got a new soprano.
Yep. And so we actually do mic each section of the choir individually. We did used to only have 3 mics here, but now we're big enough that we do need all 4. We do not hang these. Our venue actually has really, really big boom stands, and so we just put them on there. When we did our initial site visit, and I'll talk about that later on, we did actually discover that there wasn't really a great place to hang 4 choir mics. We could get a pair, but that's not enough for choir, and so we just use their big boom stands instead.
Yeah.
Also, the choir is kind of diagonal, and that doesn't really work well with like electrics and rails, and how most venues are laid out, so we just use big boom stands. Over there on the left side, we have our rhythm section, and our rhythm section is where we usually have the majority, if not a significant number of our inputs. You can kind of see all of the instruments there. Yes, our harp is electric and is an input. Plus we have like guitars and all that other stuff, and we have been experimenting with doing more with drum kit. And so this tends to get where we get very, very input heavy with our ensemble.
I think the harp, she even has like a mixer
Yes.
that goes into the input that goes to us.
Yes, harp could potentially be 4 inputs, but we turn it into 1 because 4 is complicated. And then we also have additional instruments that change from concert to concert. Electric violin, which we had last fall, is very common for us. We also had electric cello as well. That was an additional input. That was fun. It was our first time doing that. And we can see other auxiliary instruments as well. I mentioned accordion. I think that was actually not our first time with accordion. Might have been.
We've had it at least once before. Yeah.
We've also used a computer keyboard. That was a fun auxiliary instrument.
That was a couple seasons back.
Yep.
And a toy piano. We used
Yes,
one
we did
year.
do that.
Yeah.
That was before we got this sophisticated, but we did have
Yeah.
a toy piano once. Now, that is a lot of tech. You saw all of the audio setup we have to do. You saw our cameras where we have 1 static and 2 operated. What does it take to make all of the tech happen? Well, first of all, it takes a lot of people. These are all the volunteers we had specifically for the stream for last fall. And we actually had a couple additional volunteers who were up into the balconies who were filming us specifically for the YouTube video in post-production. So we even have more folks than these helping us out. Plus, there is a lot of coordination that happens throughout the ensemble as well. Because we have to interface with the folks who are setting up on stage, we have to interface with our PR comms folks to make sure they know where folks can watch a stream and if there is a stream. We need to coordinate with concert production so we know what the repertoire is, who soloists are, that sorts of thing. So you can see a list there of all the departments we have to coordinate with. We also have lots and lots of meetings. We have like one with concert production plus the stream team plus audio. We do have an audio subcommittee as well who's completely separate. We have, Jarel and I have one-on-ones so that we can make sure we're on the same page with what we want to do, and Jarel understands like what the concert's going to look like because I'm at rehearsal, and our non-performing folks aren't at rehearsal as often, but they are there sometimes. We'll talk about that later. And then we have an all-hands with our stream crew because we do bring in a lot of volunteers outside of WGSO for our stream crews to help with our concerts, and they need to get all the information as well for what the concert's going to look like so they're ready to go. We also have lots and lots of training and documentation as well because we on the Twitch team are still learning and our volunteers need to learn as well. So we do have a YouTube training series we have developed for things like camera ops, all of our equipment on the rack, our audio workflows with our rack mixer. We also have all of our technical manuals available for our equipment if folks want to reference that. Let's say if you need to troubleshoot something on site. Or if you just want to learn something new about the equipment and just get curious, we have that as well.
We've mentioned about practicing using our equipment before, and like part of that, making the YouTube video series of training was so that we could also get more time and experience on the cameras.
Yeah, we did have an open house afterwards. That was fun for folks to get hands-on experience. And then on the right side, you have what we call our patch diagram. This is a document for our setup folks in particular, so they know where to patch everything into in our venues. But what we on the stream side need to know is we need to know, like, okay, we see that harp is being plugged into M5. And so we, like back in the lighting booth or in the stream setup area, know, okay, we need to plug output M5 into input, I don't know, whatever, 10 on our mixer, and then we can get harp on the channel we expect it to. And so we're watching this diagram to know where things are plugged in and where we can expect them.
So it also takes a lot of communications to make all this tech happen. We used to use, or we tried using the camera communications. That didn't work out too well for us. So we switched to walkie-talkies recently that we bring. We've used walkie-talkies from the venue in the past. It's super important for that because you saw all the patches that our audio people would have to do literally at the beginning of every concert, patching everything in. All those people need to be on the same line as they're doing that so they can tell what's going on and what's going where at any given time. Also, during the concert, the camera people are going to need to hear, generally me, telling them like what camera angles to go for. So literally constant communication happening during the concert, which is why the walkie-talkies have been so beneficial. Can talk a little bit, role of the stream director. So that's generally my job at the concerts, and that involves handling pretty much everything. Once the concert starts, once everything is all plugged up and ready to go, starting OBS, starting the Twitch stream, handling ads, telling the camera people what angles to go for, making sure that the person handling the stream graphics knows when to come in with what the name of the next song is, who the MC is. Basically just handling everything about the stream once the stream has started. And that is a massive, massive undertaking, which is why we've brought so many extra people in, because I couldn't do all that on my own.
But we appreciate
we learned
so
pretty
much.
quickly you need a lot more people for some of that. So now we have like 2 camera people. We now have somebody handling the stream graphics separately. They're plugged directly into ATEM on a second laptop, and they're hitting buttons to make sure that goes through so that I don't have to do that too. We have an additional person we brought in to handle talking to the chat mods, because the chat mods will let us know as they're watching stream if there's any like audio or video issues that we didn't catch. So an additional person will be sitting with us in the booth to tell us, either me on the stream director side or our audio person, what those problems are so that we can keep a better idea of what's going on when it's like too busy, too complicated, too much stuff going on for us to catch ourselves. So now we have like a lot more people, and a lot more of this process is slimmed down or easy for each individual person to do, which has been great. Last thing on here is rehearsal attendance. So our stream crew, for the most part, doesn't attend our rehearsals, but we try to get as many of the stream crew as possible to come to our dress rehearsal, the one right before the concert. At least once, we would like to see them. We would like them to see what the entire concert would look like from start to finish. So the dress rehearsal is usually the best place for that, because that's the one place we can guarantee where we will play every single song. They get to see the whole thing. They get to understand what the songs sound like. I tend to write this stream script. David did that previously. I've taken that over. You can see it on the right-hand side. It's basically a script of exactly what's going to go on in each song that's going to be played, and what sections are going to be playing, what soloists are going to be playing, and what the camera people, what we recommend them to focus on. Communication is still important, because you're not going to be able to read that in the dark during a concert. So that's why we still have to tell them what camera angles to go for. But they can see this and have this with them during the dress rehearsal, and reference it and sort of get a better idea of what's going on and what to expect. So that's useful. If the entire stream crew can't make it to the dress rehearsal, then usually I come. If at least one of us makes it, that's like the most important part. We also try and do like a test stream during our dress rehearsal if we have the resources, to once again just test our hardware, make sure we're familiar with it. We continue to get more familiar with it, but to see if the settings we set for the concert are going to work as we want them to. So.
But what if there's an event that's smaller than a full ensemble concert, but slightly bigger than our small concerts? That's our Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is our biggest fundraising push of the year, and as the development director, I ask people for money, so it's my bread and butter.
Give us money.
Yeah, please give us money. This was the second year we did it in person. We previously did a couple of the like virtual recital type things for Giving Tuesday, but this was our second year at Crescendo Studios in Virginia. Shout them out.
Big shout out.
We had 4 groups ranging from 2 to 9 members, so that was like a big spread. What you need to do is you need to pre-plan. I don't know if we've made that very clear yet already. We've talked about it several times. Plan as much as possible. I made a very, very, very detailed schedule. There was even more in the schedule previously. One of the reasons that I overplan is if once you're at the event, if you know that you're running out of time, you can strike things. So pre-plan and know what you can already strike. If you need to. We also wrote a script this year. The first year we did the in-person Giving Tuesday, we were writing it on the fly. I do not recommend that. That was very anxiety-inducing. But this year I did write it ahead of time, and that was really, really helpful. So that was great. We also got to practice with some of our new equipment. Like we got lavalier mics from one of the Rasmus auctions, and we got to use that at Giving Tuesday for our dedicated interview set. We had 4 cameras for the whole event, our Black Magics and our Focus, our other ones, and then one that was borrowed, I believe. And one was not manually done. We had it just as a wide view on the interview set, so the interview always had a wide view. And then one of the manned cameras was going and doing like cut-ins at the interview set and for our performers, so they were able to go back and forth. We never had performances going during the interviews. The interviews were set so that the performers and the tech folk can get set up for the next group. So it's good to think ahead on that thing, like how much time would you need for setup in between multiple groups, and what can you do during that time to like hide the fact that you're doing other things elsewhere. And the interviews are really, really helpful for us. Again, like we've mentioned before, it takes so many people. There is a big list of people there. But big extra thanks to Robert at Crescendo Studios for providing the dynamic lighting for us for Giving Tuesday. And he's going to be conducting at the
MAGFest
MCO Orchestra on Saturday morning?
Saturday
Yes.
morning.
Yeah, so go check him out. He's awesome. He's a good dude.
Now, we're doing a whole lot of really, really complicated stuff, even for Giving Tuesday. And it's very, very important that our venues understand what we're going to do when we go to that venue and how we want to do it. I mentioned that we do tend to place our mics fairly closely to the performance, because otherwise we're going to get like the room echoes, of course. But if we place those mics on stage, then we need to interface with the venue's audio system. And in addition to that, that audio needs to go to 3 different places. It needs to go to, of course, the front of house PA so the audience can hear the performance, especially anything that needs reinforcement like the choir or soloists or recorders. It needs to go to the stream, of course. That's our audio. We need that. Very important. And also, we do record multi-track audio of our concerts, and so the audio needs to go there as well. And so we need to make sure our venues are aware that we've got fairly complex onstage needs. We're not just a standard symphonic orchestra with like a stereo pair and an MC mic. We got much more than that. And that audio needs to go to 3 different places. And we also need to discuss with them like what are our options for getting audio to 3 completely different places as well. And that's a very big part of our discussions with the venue, making sure that we have that workflow available. We also need to make sure that the venue is able to hang our mains mics in front of the orchestra. That is something that we check over. We make sure that there are hanging positions when we're looking over the technical documentation or technical manuals for that venue that they provide. Again, we have that backup of the large mic stand, but that's a visual obstruction, and no one likes to see a big mic stand right in the center. So we try to avoid that if at all possible. What we also look for with our venues is a location for us to stream from, where to put our stream setup. Where Jarel's going to be when he's directing, where our switcher goes, where our rack goes, where our audio mixer goes, and where all those folks sit. We do have a whole bunch of needs for that streaming location. We, of course, need power. Our rack needs power, of course. We need to make sure that we have all the audio connections we need for multi-channel audio to get all of the inputs we want separately. And most importantly, we need wired internet.
Wired internet is
Wired
so
internet.
Wired
important.
internet.
Yes.
Don't do it. Wi-Fi. Don't.
It's all your fault, Scott.
Yes. There may have been a concert last summer where we streamed on Wi-Fi and suddenly the audience came in and started looking at our digital concert program on their phones and whoops, there goes our stream. Don't stream on Wi-Fi. Don't do it. Also, what we're looking for at that stream location is how isolated all the folks who are on the stream crew are from the audience as well. Jarel mentioned there is a lot of communication that happens between the director and our camera operators. And if the audience hears that communication, that's distracting, and they're going to be hearing our communication instead of the concert, and we want them to hear the concert. So ideally, our stream location would be in its own isolated room. That doesn't always happen. Some venues just don't have that for us. But we try and find a good location that's out of the way of where most of the audience will be sitting. It's also good for our audio engineer because if they're in the same room as the orchestra, they're going to hear the live sound from the orchestra. They're not going to hear the stream mix nearly as well. And so it's harder for them to hear issues with the stream mix and make sure they're balancing it, which is kind of the reason why we have our mods and our stream coordinator looking out for this. But still, it's best if our stream audio person doesn't hear the live sound, they hear the stream sound, so they can mix it better. As I mentioned, we do need to make sure that we obtain pre-fader multi-track audio, every single track separately, before it hits the faders of the front-of-house mixer. We do have completely separate mixes for our stream as well as our front-of-house audio. That does add a lot of complexity, adds a lot of coordination there, but the stream needs are very different from the front-of-house needs. If you have an instrument in the concert hall, and you're there in the concert hall with the instrument, you are probably going to hear that instrument. But if you're sitting at home watching a stream, if there's no mic to pick up that instrument, you're not going to hear that instrument. And so we need to make sure that we are obtaining multi-track audio so we can mix that instrument correctly and you can hear it. And then lastly, we need to make sure that we have good camera locations, good angles for the cameras to see the performance, whether it's full ensemble or small ensemble. And we need to make sure that we have that distance so our cables can reach. Our SDI cables are currently 100 feet, and so that's our max distance from the switcher. And we need to make sure that we have that max distance. We have a whole bunch more stuff. We have our site visits, which I've mentioned. There is a whole bunch of stuff we need to look at for our site visits to confirm that we have what we need in the locations we need it to. You can see some photos of some stuff we looked at for one of our prior site visits at our full ensemble concert venue. We need to talk to our venues about what equipment they have available and do we want to borrow it? Is there added costs? We do frequently rent things like wireless mics for our MCs and soloists. We actually did have, our venue, we did have some issues with our concert last spring with those mics, and they actually bought all new mics for us, so big shout out to our venue.
We love the Rachel M. Schlesinger Concert Hall and Art Center.
Yes.
At the Northern Virginia Community College campus, and yes, I have to say the whole thing legally.
Yes, it's in our contract. We also do send them a tech rider. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the tech rider for like bands and cons and other stuff like that. We send one to our concert venues for our entire orchestra, and I'm going to show that a bit later. We do discuss our audio pipeline because, again, we need to mix our streams separately from the front-of-house audio, and so we need to discuss how we're going to get that multi-track audio, what options are available. The absolute jackpot is being able to get on the venue's Dante network, but out of all the venues we've asked this at, we've only gotten on the Dante network once, and that was last summer. Our main performing venue actually doesn't even have Dante, which is unfortunate because we'd like it. But if they don't have Dante, we do need to discuss what other options are available for us to get it. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, we need to talk about sort of the general intent. What are we there to do, especially from a technical standpoint? How do we want to do it? Can we do it? If we can't do it, what other options does the venue have available for us to get what we ultimately need for our concerts and our streams and our recordings? Here is a sample of our tech rider. You can see we've got a stage diagram, just like any tech rider. It, of course, has a lot more things on it than a standard band's tech rider does. That's an entire orchestra with a very large percussion section and choir. But we do put all that stuff on there so our venue knows how to set up chairs and stands and risers and other things. We've got an input list, again, just like any other band, but our input list here had 18 inputs, and sometimes we've gotten as high as 22 before. And then lastly, we have something that our venues have actually sometimes requested from us, and that is a set list. We do put our auxiliary and unusual inputs on there for stuff like piano, harp, when those are performing. We can see acoustic guitar was on one thing. We've got some notes there as well. And that helps our front-of-house audio tech as well as our stream audio tech know when to mute and unmute certain things.
One of the good things about making these documents is that you can kind of reuse them because like our orchestra is not really going to change too much. The direct inputs will for each concert, but we can use these as templates and just like refresh them for the next concert.
And moving on from there, we want to talk about quickly is filming but not streaming in cases of where, like we talked about, you may not have that wired internet, you may not have a situation where you can get that information out live, or maybe you just don't want to get it out live, you're just trying to get it on-site shot, and then at that point you're just, as the name implies, you're just filming. So in conditions where this might happen, you might have convention performances, something like VGM Con or Awesome Con. We don't really have the opportunity or the internet connection to transmit those live. So we work and focus on recording. We use SD card, not SD card, SD hard drives,
Yes.
SSD, excuse me, that's the word I'm looking
We
for.
use a combo of both, actually.
Yeah, that's true. And we have, make sure they're of recording quality for the capture quality you're going to be doing, because that's not every SSD, not every hard drive is built for that and speed. So make sure you got that online. We also look into music videos. We spent some time after COVID trying to really focus on our filming opportunities and wherever we could just continue to put out content information for folks. So we had music videos shot at Omega Studios, Crescendo Studios. Again, big shout out to everyone there. They've been phenomenal to work with. And even then, beyond that, we have partnerships with other organizations and other groups. BGSO we often cooperate with and help them out, and they help us out, the Baltimore Gamer Symphony Orchestra. And these are all opportunities where you can at least bring on something, even bringing something like a small ensemble setup like you were showing earlier. That's an opportunity to at least get it on film, and then you can edit it down later on. You can get it on something like YouTube or similar, just to get that information out and still put out some content.
Also, really quick, that photo is from whenever we rented equipment that we were thinking of purchasing with our capacity building grant that I'll talk about. So that's also something that's a really, really good tip. If you have money that you want to spend on things, it's good to spend a little bit of money to rent that equipment first and see if it is actually what you need.
Exactly. And next, moving into streaming outside of concerts, like what other things can you stream if you're an organization like us or similar? Obviously, general game streams. I'm sure almost everyone here is probably familiar with Twitch and watches some kind of game stream at some point. So that's one of our majority of time we're spending is going to be on that. You can see here David doing his Morrowind randomizer run.
Skyrim with crowd control.
Skyrim, yeah. With crowd
It's
control. We have Super Smash Brothers tournaments, which you can see our small ensemble set up there a little bit on the right. And these are kind of just general streams, because then obviously putting together an orchestra, putting together a repertoire, we only do that 2, maybe 3 times a year for the whole orchestra, let alone small ensemble stuff. So we don't have the opportunity to stream full concerts as often. So we want to make sure that, for lack of a better word, unfortunately, the way Twitch and any algorithm works, you need to keep your name out there. You need to keep your information, something coming out.
Got to keep the lights on.
Exactly. So we try to make sure we're always having some streams going no matter what we're doing. So like right now we try to do one every Sunday if we can. If not, we can figure out. But we have our entire meetings, we're just scheduling out stuff for months on end just to make sure we have something always coming up. And just to quickly talk about my baby, which is Extra Life. Out of curiosity, how familiar are people with Extra Life? For the kids, let's go.
For the kids.
We got some Extra Life fans.
For those not unfamiliar, it is a charity-run organization where people just live stream video games and raise money for Children's National Hospitals, Miracle Network Hospital, excuse me. In our case, we work with Children's National Hospital here in D.C. On average, we've raised about $1,000 every single year. We work to keep improving upon that. You can see our chart there. But yeah, when I first started, again, it was just in the apartment of we were in the Tracy's house the first time. In 2019, we were in my one-bedroom apartment. It was me and David sitting on a couch with some other folks coming in. And we decided to do that for 24 hours, which was a mistake. Don't do full 24-hour streams. They're not
Resident
worth it.
Evil 7 at 3 a.m. is an experience.
Yeah, now we do two 12-hour day
Shit.
streams, and
Yeah.
that is much easier.
But it's grown over the years, and we even actually partnered with BGSO. Hello. It was good to time with them, and up to last year, where we actually managed to again hit our record of $1,000. But we are now using Emily's basement, and she has this huge space that we can properly use. And chaos just kind of goes. I think by the end we were. Obviously, myself and David are pretty much there for the entire time.
That was after death. This is after death salsa.
Yeah, someone decided to
Yes.
make Carolina Reaper salsa.
Carolina Reaper
Someone
And we
who
said
might
if we
be
hit our
sitting next
goal,
to me
we'll
right
eat
now.
that, and we did, and it was a mistake.
If we hit goal, we
if
were
we
going to
hit
do
goal.
it, and we did it. And we had ice cream and Pepto-Bismol. You can also see the Pepto-Bismol.
And the gooses are just incentives for every $100, so we kept adding geese.
But you might be wondering, how do you have the money to get all this equipment? Well, I will tell you, you ask a lot of people. It's the TLDR. But the biggest boon we had was the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County. In 2023, we applied for a programming and capacity building project grant. So we're going to focus on the capacity building section of that. We were awarded $9,440. What a good way to ask for money for these granting organizations, which you can find usually on your county, state level, sometimes by your city level. It depends on where you're located. But we were highlighting to promote the accessibility of our concerts so that people at home will have as much of an in-person experience as a person at our concerts. And in our mission statement, we say that we want to put on affordable and accessible concerts in the DC area. So we were hearkening our mission statement and being like, look, we want to be more accessible, give us money, and then we'll buy things, and we'll be even more accessible. And then they gave us money, and then we bought a whole bunch of stuff, and it was great. We also do other fundraising, like Giving Tuesday, like I said, is our biggest fundraising event of the year. We have our main spring and fall full ensemble concerts. We've done recitals throughout the year. Starting this year, we're going to have our chorus feature, our first choral showcase concert. That's going to be in March. We're going to do an instrumental feature concert next year with the goal of doing that every other year, rotating those. Other events, we've mentioned McClintock Distilling in Frederick. We've performed there. Eastern Market Metro, we perform there. And these are all places that either we do a split of the ticket proceeds of the event, or the venue, or in the case of Eastern Market Metro, the Eastern Market Business Improvement District gives us money to perform there. So that's always great. We also table at conventions. We will be here throughout MAGFest in the merch hall. We are at P3, so if you're the whole way down on the right aisle and go straight down for a while and you find us. We have merch and a whole bunch of other stuff there. Just say hi. We have our laptop if you want to sign up for our Friends of list. And we also do subs and bits on Twitch. So our Twitch is down at the bottom if you would like to subscribe. One of the reasons that we wanted to buy our equipment is so that we would reduce liability. Liability is the big word here. We also use that in our grant application as one of the reasonings for what you should give us money so that we are less liable if we borrow something from our members and we hurt it. We also are able to better suit our equipment to be stuff we actually need and will use versus something that we just a member had. So there are lots of good reasons for it.
Now, since this is the Twitch channel of the WMGSO, one of the main things that we want to do is we want to really open up our Twitch channel to the entire orchestra. So that way, anyone from the orchestra who wants to stream on our channel has an opportunity to do that. It's really the orchestra's Twitch channel. And so we do have a proposal form that anyone can fill out, and they can say, yes, I would like to stream, here's what I would like to stream, and then we make an attempt to put them on the calendar. In fact, our most recent stream last Sunday came from this proposal form. It was some mods of Celeste, including like Into the Jungle, Quickie World, stuff like that.
The music was great.
Yes, it was great. We also have a standard layout package that we distribute. So if someone wants to stream directly to Twitch, we can then just send them the zip folder with all of our layouts, and then they have our branding standards. They have everything they need to get their own stream going in OBS.
Another critical point about this is making sure, starting to work into establishing groups of people who play the games together. So things like we have established groups for Phasmophobia, Helldivers 2, Risk Terrain 2, Smash Brothers. These are all people that we're familiar with that we can fall back on if, hey, we got a lull here. Doesn't anyone want to come together and put a game on? It's a bit like herding cats, but it's a fun time always and can get us a lot of easy fillers.
And we do that, a lot of that on Discord is how we get them all together, like in a voice chat on Discord to help get the various screenshots. If people want to stream theirs to Discord, then we can have somebody restream it to Twitch and like go between different players.
Yeah. Which is actually the point I was about to make here. There's a lot of people in our orchestra who don't actually know how to handle OBS or don't want to go through the energy. If we want to get them on the stream, it's pretty easy. We just do exactly that. We have them stream to Discord. And then one of us who on the Twitch team who specifically already has all that stuff ready to go, we just pull the Discord audio and video in, and we have our settings and our sources, and we just put them up. And it's pretty seamless for them. So anybody else in the orchestra who wants to stream who doesn't have the energy to figure any of that out, they can still stream. It's very easy.
Accessibility, guys.
So we also make sure, as part of our processes for the Twitch team, we have monthly meetings where we talk about everything that we have been doing recently. We have recaps about our streams over the last week. More importantly, we put together our schedule of what we're going to be doing because for a lot of if you're streaming solo, it's pretty easy for you to just figure out what you want to do like in any given week. For us, we find it a lot better to sit down and decide what we're going to stream for the entire next month. So we get into one of those meetings, we have this giant list of ideas that we had that people proposed to us, and we go through that and we decide what we're going to do, and we put down stuff on the calendar for the entire next month.
If we can't find something, I just speedrun Skyrim again with crowd control.
We've also recently been looking into schedule consistency because we've noticed it, or we've realized that that's a really big thing about streaming. If people don't know when you're streaming, they're not going to watch your channel on a regular basis. So trying to stick to the same time and date is one thing we're going to try to do from now on. So you can expect to see us always streaming Sundays at 7:30,
Except this week.
not this Sunday.
Yes.
We're not going to
We're
be
here.
there in 3 days. But that started last month, and it continues next Sunday, February 2nd. You'll see Fabio playing Sonic Shadow Generation. So if you want to tune into our channel, you can enjoy that.
Real quick, we're just going to jump on networking because we're running out of time here. It really important is networking, as the name implies, but talking to other people, find out people who have similar interests, other organizations. Like in our case, we really do work a lot with BGSO in Baltimore. They are fantastic and phenomenal. Big shout outs to them and their team because they'll help us and we'll help them back. Work with folks that you can find in who also run in your circles as well. Look into post-stream raids, how you can kind of get your name on other people's streams and maybe start talking with them. Go to meetups at conventions like this. We have a table again. Talk to if you're doing musical streams. Talk to other musical streamers. You know, we've worked in the past with Doug Perry, Rob Kovacs, Jarel. All these folks have been kind enough to give us their time and even sometimes perform with us. These are all folks that no one's going to give you like a right off the bat, like yeah, of course. But start a conversation. Have these people talk and say, hey, I do this too. Let's talk.
And if you want to do stuff with us, go to the merch hall and find our table, leave your card or talk to them. And we have a notebook that they can write your name and email and what you want to talk to us about. Or we can give my cards, my business cards are at the table. So you could grab one of those and get a hold of me, and then I can forward you to whoever is appropriate.
And for the last point, I just want to touch on that point. Also, big shout out to indie game devs. We're not trying to they're also a great time to work with and have opportunities with them.
And fun.
It's fun. All right. In conclusion.
Hope you enjoyed our bit from Giving Tuesday.
Thank you.
Each different group had one in their section, and then we had everybody at the end.
Yep. And that's our panel. Thank you all very much for attending. We don't really have much time for questions, but here is all of our social media info. If you want to follow us on Twitch, catch us on social media, there is our link tree with literally everything else. We have a couple concerts coming up. That March 22nd one is not 100% confirmed for stream yet, ironically, because we need to confirm that we are not going to be streaming on Wi-Fi. But May 17th will definitely be streamed.
If we do not stream it live, it will be
We
recorded
will be
and
recording
it
that
will go
one.
on our YouTube. So
Yep.
don't worry about that. You will be able to watch it later, if not live.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Appreciate it.
We'll be around up front, and then we'll also see some of us at the orchestra, at the community orchestra. So feel free to chat and ask us questions there.